The storm clouds returned that night, rolling across the city like a low, dark tide. Thunder vibrated somewhere in the distance, too far to hear clearly but close enough to feel in the floorboards. The apartment lights flickered once, then steadied, but the warning was clear, something was building inside me too. I paced the living room, trying to distract myself with anything, my phone, a movie playing on low volume, the leftover food on the counter, but nothing worked. My thoughts kept circling back to Malik. His words. His eyes. His quiet patience mixed with something far more dangerous. I finally settled on the couch, pretending to scroll aimlessly through socials, when the front door suddenly swung open and Malik walked in, but not like usual. His shirt was soaked from the rain, clinging to his chest and shoulders. His breathing was quick, uneven, and his jaw was set in that way that meant he was trying hard, really hard, to hold himself together. "You're back early," I said, voice cracking a little. He shut the door behind him. Didn't answer, just stared at me. Then he said, "We need to talk." All the air left my lungs at once. "Okay," I managed. "About what?" "You know what." The words hit like a punch. He dropped his keys on the table, the clattering sound too loud in the quiet apartment. He walked over to the kitchen counter, bracing his hands against it, shoulders tight. "I tried ignoring it," he said quietly. "I tried pretending I imagined it." He looked up at me then, really looked, but tonight proved it. My pulse thudded. "What happened tonight?" He ran a hand across his face, exhaling shakily. "You happened." My breath caught. He continued, "Every time I leave this apartment, I try to convince myself I'm reading you wrong. But then I come back, and one look at you shuts that lie down." He straightened, his voice almost trembling. "I can't be around you like this, unsure, confused, second-guessing every look, every word." I swallowed hard. "Malik, I never meant to." "Yes, you did." Not angry and not accusing, just honest. He stepped closer, rain still dripping from his hair onto the floor, each drop loud in the silence. "You want something, and you're terrified of it." I backed up slightly, my legs hitting the edge of the couch. "Malik," his name left my mouth like a warning and a plea at the same time. He stopped in front of me, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the leftover warmth beneath the chill of his wet clothes. Then he said something that changed everything. "I saw your door open last night." My stomach dropped. I had forgotten to lock it for the first time since he moved in. He continued quietly, "You always lock it." "Always. Except last night." He leaned in just slightly. "And don't tell me it was a mistake." My mouth went dry. He wasn't wrong. Half of me had wanted him to come in, the other half prayed he wouldn't. "I don't know what I want," I whispered. He closed his eyes briefly, jaw tightening. When he opened them again, the mixture of restraint and longing in them made my chest ache. "Yes, you do." He reached out then, slow, careful, and rested his hand beside my hip on the couch, not touching me but close enough that if I moved even an inch, our bodies would meet. "Tell me to stop," he said. "Right now." "Tell me, and I will." I should have. I knew I should have, but I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the windows. Malik's breathing deepened. "Look at me." I didn't want to. I did anyway, and what I saw destroyed every half-built wall I still had. He wasn't just attracted. He wasn't just curious. He cared deeply, painfully, almost recklessly, the kind of care you give someone you shouldn't want. "I don't want to hurt you," he murmured. "You won't," I whispered back, though the truth was either of us could, emotionally, not physically. This was dangerous in all the wrong ways. He moved his hand then, just slightly, letting his fingertips brush mine. The touch was barely there, but it burned through me. He froze at the contact, as if waiting for me to pull away. I didn't, and that small surrender shifted something in him, something that had been held back too tightly for too long. He stepped even closer, his body heat chasing away the chill of his rain-soaked clothes. His voice dropped, low and rough. "Then tell me I'm not imagining this." My heart hammered so loudly it felt like the room could hear. I don't know," I whispered. "It was the truth, and the biggest lie." Malik exhaled sharply, a sound mixed with frustration and relief. His hand lifted again, hesitated, then gently, carefully, brushed the side of my face with the back of his fingers. My breath faltered. His touch lingered, soft, warm, terrifying. "I'm not supposed to want this," I said, voice shaking. "I know," he whispered, eyes locked on mine. "But you do." The tension between us snapped, not violently, softly, inevitable, like gravity finally winning. He leaned in, but he didn't close the distance. He stopped with his forehead almost touching mine, our breaths mixing into something electric and dangerous. "Tell me to stop," he repeated, barely audible. "I tried. I swear I tried, but nothing came out." And Malik, slowly, painfully, let out a breath he'd been holding for weeks. His hand cupped the back of my neck, fingers trembling, not from desire, but from restraint. Then, a sudden knock at the front door. We both flinched. My heart lurched. Malik stepped back, breathing hard, eyes wide with the shock of the moment breaking. We stared at each other, the air between us still shaking with what almost happened. The knock came again, louder. Malik whispered, "Don't answer that." But I already was standing, pulse spiking with confusion and fear. The person at the door knocked a third time, slow, deliberate. Malik's expression shifted, concern, anger, and something like possession. "Who the hell is that?" he said under his breath. I didn't know, but when I cracked open the door, the cold hallway air rushed in, and the face staring back at me made every instinct in my body jolt. A face I never expected to see again. Not here, not now, not like this. And whatever they said next would change everything. "If you want, I can continue." Fire falling action, 600 to 800 words. Fire conclusion, cliffhanger, 400 to 600 words. Fire thumbnail prompt, title. Tags are visual prompts. Just tell me. The night after Malik stepped into the hallway like he wanted more than just a conversation, things between us shifted, quietly at first, like a door opening only a crack. But I felt it. He felt it too, and neither of us acknowledged it. The next morning, the apartment returned to its usual stillness. Rain tapped lightly against the kitchen window, forming small rivers that slid across the glass. The sky was washed out gray, the kind of color that makes everything look softer, quieter, almost innocent. It didn't match the way my chest tightened when I heard Malik's bedroom door open. He walked out wearing a loose black t-shirt, his hair still damp from the shower. There was something in the air around him, calm on the surface, but buzzing underneath. Like static before a storm. "A morning," he said, way too casually. "A morning," I responded, forcing myself to keep my eyes on the coffee mug in my hands. He opened the fridge, but I could feel him watching me. Even with the door blocking his face, I felt it. The unspoken question from last night hung between us like a fog. Did he remember how close he got to me? Did he regret it? Or was he waiting for me to break the silence? He grabbed a bottle of water, closed the fridge, and leaned against the counter. "You slept early last night." I didn't. Not even close. I tossed and turned for hours, replaying the way he walked toward me, the tension in his voice, the look in his eyes. I was tired. I lied, his lips pressed into a knowing line. "Right." The word lingered, sharp enough to cut. He didn't push further, but something had definitely changed. It wasn't just a feeling, his whole presence felt heavier, more grounded, like he was aware of a boundary he had come close to crossing, and maybe wanted to try again. For the next couple of days, we danced around it, small things, quiet things. He would stand a little too close when we cooked dinner. He asked questions about my past that felt way too personal. He sat beside me on the couch, leaving barely an inch of space between us, even though the whole couch was empty every time he did something like that. My heart thudded harder, but I pretended it was nothing. It was easier to lie to him than to admit the truth to myself, but the tension was growing, stealthy, steady, filling the apartment until it felt like something would eventually crack, and it did. The night everything started to shift. It was a Thursday. I remember because Malik had come home late from work, frustrated and silent. He dropped his gym bag by the door, exhaled sharply, and walked straight to his room. I didn't ask what was wrong. I didn't need to. He was the type who carried every emotion in his shoulders, tension knotted beneath his skin, visible even through the fabric of his shirt. His footsteps were heavier than usual, and when he closed his door, the sound was sharper, almost angry. About an hour later, I heard something strange. A muffled thud, then another. It wasn't like the sounds from before. These were sharper, more deliberate, like someone hitting a wall with the heel of their hand. My first instinct was concern. My second was confusion. I placed my book down, stood, and walked toward his room. I hesitated before knocking. "Malik? Everything okay?" There was a pause. A long one. Then his voice, low and strained, "Come in." I opened the door slowly. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, hunched forward, elbows on his knees. His hair was messy, his jaw clenched tight, and his breathing uneven. The room smelled faintly of sweat and something warmer, something unsettled. You good? I asked. He didn't look up, not at first, then he said, no. Not really. I stepped inside. Do you want to talk? A humorless laugh slipped from him. Talking doesn't fix this. He finally lifted his head, and the look in his eyes stopped me cold. Frustration, confusion, want, and something else, something I didn't want to name yet. What happened? I whispered. He shook his head. It's not about work. It's not about anything out there. He gestured vaguely toward the window, then locked his gaze onto mine. It's in here. For a moment, I couldn't breathe because I knew exactly what he meant. I had felt it too, but hearing him say it made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. Malik, I started, but he stood quickly, cutting off my words. He took 2 slow steps toward me. Déjà vu from the hallway, same heavy air, same quiet intensity. Do you feel it too? He asked softly. I swallowed. Feel what? That I'm not imagining this. He gestured between us. Whatever this is. My chest tightened. He was close now, too close. The room felt smaller, as if the walls had moved in on us. I don't know, I said, my voice weaker than I intended. Yeah, he murmured, eyes narrowing slightly. That's not the truth. He brushed past me then, barely touching me, but it felt like a spark snapping against my skin. He walked to the window, pulled the curtains aside, stared at the city lights for a moment, and then turned back to me. You're scared, he said. Not a question. A fact. Of what? I asked. Of wanting something you think you shouldn't. Silence dropped between us like a weight. My throat tightened. I didn't know what to say, and not without admitting things I had spent years burying. He walked closer again, slower this time, like he didn't want to spook me. You lock your door every night, he said. But you don't lock it because of me. You lock it because of you. I clench my jaw. That's not. He stepped even closer. Tell me I'm wrong. I couldn't. I didn't, and that silence told him everything. His expression softened, barely, but enough for me to notice. He reached out, as if he was going to touch my arm, but he stopped halfway. His hand hovered there, inches from my skin, tense with the effort of holding himself back. The air pulsed between us. I'm not gonna do anything you don't want, he whispered. But I need you to stop pretending you don't feel this. My heart hammered too fast, too loud. I felt cornered, not by him, but by myself. By what I wanted and what terrified me. I need some air, I muttered, turning for the door. Malik didn't follow. He just watched me leave, silent, still, but with a look that said he wasn't done, and somehow, I knew the night wasn't either. When the line blur started, I sat on the balcony, gripping the cold metal railing, trying to steady my breathing. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with humidity and unresolved tension inside. The apartment was quiet again, too quiet. I thought Malik had gone to sleep, but then I heard the soft shuffle of his footsteps approaching. He didn't come outside, he stood just behind the glass door, watching me. I won't push, he said, voice muffled slightly through the sliding door, but don't lie to yourself. His words hit deeper than he knew, because the truth was simple and terrifying. I did feel it every time he brushed against me, every time he looked at me too long, every time he said my name with that low, steady tone. The question wasn't whether I felt it was whether I could live with what would happen if I stopped fighting it. I turned slowly. He met my eyes through the glass, steadily, openly, with a vulnerability I had never seen in him before, and that's when I knew this wasn't going away. Not tonight, not ever. What he did next would shift everything, and I still don't know if I should have stopped him. If you'd like, I can now write white heavy checkmark climactic moment, 800 to 1,200 words, or white heavy checkmark falling action, a white heavy checkmark conclusion, cliffhanger. Just tell me what you want next. The morning had that soft, washed-out glow, the kind that makes everything look calmer than it actually feels. I stood by the living room window, watching a thin line of sunlight stretch across the quiet street. The house was still, almost too still. Even the ticking of the wall clock felt louder today, tapping against the silence like a reminder of something I couldn't quite name. I breathed in slowly, pretending the calmness outside could settle the nervous heaviness in my chest. Lately, I'd been waking up with this feeling, an uneasy mix of anticipation and dread, though nothing in my routine had changed. I still made the same morning tea, still opened the blinds the same way, still walked through the same narrow hallway lined with old family pictures, but something in the air had shifted. Or maybe it was me. I tried to ignore the thought and headed toward the kitchen, only to pause halfway when I heard the door creak open. Not loudly, just enough to make my heart stutter. Footsteps. Slow. Familiar. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Morning, he said, voice low, sleep rough, carrying a warmth that always arrived before he did. I finally looked over my shoulder. There he was, standing in the doorway, hair a mess, shirt clinging loosely to his frame, one hand pushing back the strands that kept falling over his eyes. His presence always shifted the atmosphere around him, like he carried a quiet storm wherever he went. He smiled at me, small, tired, but sincere, and that smile did something to me every time. I tried to hide the way my chest tightened. Morning, I replied, forcing a casual tone. He stepped into the kitchen, brushing past me. Too close. My body tensed before I could stop myself, and I silently cursed the way even the smallest things affected me now. He grabbed a glass, filled it with water, and leaned against the counter, watching me over the rim as he drank. There was a hint of something in his eyes, something unreadable, something I had noticed for weeks but never dared question. I turned away, pretending to check the kettle, but my thoughts were louder than any sound in the room. Why does it feel like he's hiding something? Why? Does his silence feel heavier every day? Why do I feel watched lately? A faint noise echoed from the back of the house, a soft thud, like something falling. We both froze. He set his glass down a little too fast. What was that? I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowing toward the hallway. It's nothing, he finally said. But his voice didn't match his words. A chill crawled up my spine. That same uneasy feeling, the one tugging at me for days, suddenly sharpened, like a shadow stepping into focus. Something was off in this house, and I had a feeling today would be the day I finally understood why. If you want, I can continue with the rising action, 1,200 to 1,500 words, next. I used to think the quietest moments of the night were the safest, the times when the world outside my apartment windows felt muted, when the traffic dissolved into a distant hum, and when the shadows stretched lazily across the living room walls. Those moments made me feel like I was in control, like I knew myself, my limits, my boundaries, but that was before Malik moved in. He wasn't supposed to stay long. Just a month, he had said when he showed up with 2 suitcases and a smirk that felt like it could read my thoughts. He was a friend of a friend, someone I'd met only twice before, both times thinking, God, his trouble, and yet I still said yes. Maybe I was lonely, maybe I was curious, or maybe I was already in trouble long before he stepped through my doorway. Our apartment wasn't anything special, white walls that always looked a little too cold, thin curtains that never fully blocked the streetlights, a kitchen with a flickering bulb that hummed when it was tired. But Malik noticed everything. He noticed how I always locked my bedroom door at night. He noticed how I avoided eye contact when he walked around shirtless after his evening workouts. He noticed the way my breath caught when his arm brushed mine. I thought I was hiding it. I wasn't. That night, the night everything shifted, the air felt heavier than usual. A storm had just rolled through, leaving the apartment damp and metallic, like the air right before lightning strikes again. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to read, pretending not to listen to Malik's footsteps pacing in his room. Something was off. He hadn't spoken to me since morning. He hadn't even looked at me. Then, a sound. A soft, dull thud against the wall. His wall. My heart skipped. Another thud, louder this time, followed by a low, frustrated groan. I froze, the book slipping from my fingers. Is he okay? Should I check? Do I even want to? The seconds stretched, then his door creaked open. I heard his breathing first, deep, uneven, like he was fighting something inside himself. Then he appeared in the hallway, backlit by the dim light in his room, shirtless, sweat glistening along his collarbone. He looked at me like he had been waiting. Can we talk? He said, though his voice didn't sound like he wanted to talk at all. My pulse hammered. Something felt dangerously close, too close, to crossing a line I wasn't sure I would be able to uncross. He took one slow step toward me and then another. His eyes didn't leave mine, and that's when I realized, whatever was about to happen wasn't just because of him. It was because of me too. But what he did next, and the fact that I didn't stop him, still keeps me awake at night. If you'd like, I can continue with white heavy checkmark rising action, 1,200 to 1,500 words, or white heavy checkmark thumbnail prompt, titles, hashtags, a visual. Prompts for each section. Just tell me what you want next. The hallway light flickered once as I opened the door wider, revealing the figure standing there, soaked, breath visible in the cold draft. eyes too familiar for comfort. Elias.myx, the one person Malik couldn't stand hearing about, the one person I never expected to show up at my door again. He pushed his wet hair back, exhaling like he'd run the whole way here. You didn't answer your phone, he said. I needed to see you. The words landed like a stone in my stomach. Behind me, I felt Malik step closer. Not touching me, but close enough that the heat of him rose at my back. The energy shifted instantly, heavy, tense, electric. Elias's eyes flicked over my shoulder and landed on Malik. Oh, he said flatly. You're here. Malik crossed his arms, jaw tightening. I live here. The air between them crackled, old resentment and new tension colliding in a way that made breathing feel difficult. I need a minute, Elias said, eyes back on me. Please. I hesitated, too long. Malik stepped even closer, voice low, steady, territorial without touching me. You don't owe him anything. I swallowed. Malik, he didn't look at me. Elias did, and Elias's voice softened, breaking just a little. Can I come in? Just to talk. I could feel Malik's breath hitch behind me, not jealousy, fear that I'd say yes, fear that I'd leave him standing there after everything that almost happened between us minutes ago, and guilt tore through me because I didn't even fully know what I wanted. I stepped aside wordlessly. Malik inhaled sharply, but didn't stop me. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Elias walked in, dripping across the wooden floor. His clothes clung to him like the weight of everything we'd left unfinished. He hovered in the center of the living room, small puddles forming beneath him, glancing between me and Malik with sharp, assessing eyes. Your place hasn't changed much, he said quietly. Malik let out a humorless laugh. He hasn't changed much either. Elias's eyes narrowed. Funny. I could say the same about you. I stepped between them before the air could snap completely. Stop. Both of you. Silence, tense, unsteady, Elias exhaled and rubbed his arms. I came because I made a mistake. His voice softened. I walked away too quickly. I left without letting you explain. And I've regretted it since. My throat tightened. The timing couldn't have been worse or more complicated. I don't know what you expect me to say, I whispered. I expect you to tell me the truth, Elias said. Do you still care about me? Malik tensed behind me like I'd been struck, or not visibly, just a subtle shift in the air, the way his breathing changed, the muscles in his shoulders tightening. That one question threatened everything, not because I still loved Elias, but because I wasn't sure I didn't, and because Malik was still standing there, carrying the weight of the moment I ran from. The storm outside grew louder, rain battering the windows like restless fingers. The lights flickered again, dimming the room into something softer, darker, more dangerous. I don't know how to answer that, I finally said. Malik let out a quiet breath, hurt, disappointment, something rawer than anger. Elias stepped closer. Then answer me with this, he whispered. Is he the reason you never called me back? My heart stopped. Malik's voice was quiet but sharp. That's none of your business. It is, Elias snapped. If he left me for you, I didn't leave you for anyone, I cut in. The room still. Malik's jaw clenched. Elias's chest rose and fell in short, uneven breaths. I continued, softer. I left because I needed space. Because we were hurting each other. And I didn't know how to fix it. And now? Elias whispered. Now when Malik had nearly closed the space between us, now when my heartbeat still carried the echo of the moment we almost crossed a line I'm not sure we can uncross. I moved back a step, away from both of them, because the closeness felt dangerous, confusing, too much. I don't know, I said again. I don't know anything right now. The truth settled over us like dust. Elias's face fell. Malik's hardened. A long silence stretched, thick, suffocating, fragile. Finally, Elias looked toward the door. Maybe I should go. But he didn't move. He waited, like he expected me to stop him. Malik took a slow breath behind me, voice steady but trembling with restraint. Let him go, he said quietly, for your sake, and for mine. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, Elias was still standing there. Malik was watching me closely, and my answer, whatever it was, would break something in one of them, maybe in me too. The storm raged outside. Inside, the silence was worse, and the moment wasn't done with us. Not yet. If you'd like, I can now write a fire conclusion, cliffhanger, 400 to 600 words. Fire thumbnail prompt plus title plus hashtags. Fire visual prompts for each section. Just tell me. The apartment felt too small, too crowded with the weight of everything unsaid. The storm outside thrashed against the windows, loud enough to shake the glass, loud enough to fill the silence we couldn't break. Finally, Elias stepped back, his jaw trembling with something he was trying hard to hide. "I shouldn't have come," he whispered. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. I didn't know what to offer him. An apology, a closure, a lie. He looked at me one last time, eyes wet, tired, resigned, then turned toward the door. But before leaving, he paused, his hand resting on the frame. "For what it's worth," he said softly, "I hope you choose something that doesn't destroy you." He didn't wait for a reply. The door closed behind him with a quiet finality that still managed to echo. And then it was just me and Malik. The silence that settled after Elias left was heavier than the storm. Malik stood in the same spot, shoulders stiff, eyes fixed on the floor, breathing too steady, like he was forcing every inhale to stay calm. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words died in my throat. He finally spoke first. "So, that's it." His voice was calm, but the calm that only comes right before something breaks. "I don't know," I whispered. I didn't expect him to just show up. "You didn't expect a lot of things," he said quietly. "You didn't expect me to notice you feeling something. You didn't expect to leave your door open. You didn't expect to almost—" He cut himself off, jaw clenching. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Shame. Fear. Want. All tangled in a knot I couldn't pull apart. "Malik, I didn't choose him," I said. "You didn't choose me either." That hurt more than it should have. His voice softened. "I'm not angry. I'm just tired of being careful around you. I don't know what you want. I don't think you do either." He took a step back, as if creating distance would protect us both. "I need space," he whispered, "to think. To breathe. To not feel like I'm waiting for you to make a decision you're afraid to make." My chest tightened. "Are you leaving?" I didn't say that. But he looked away, and that alone said everything. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling shakily. "I'm going to stay with my brother tonight. Just tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." My heart dropped. "Malik, don't," he said softly. "If I stay now, I won't think straight." He grabbed his keys, hesitated, then looked at me for the first time since Elias left. Really looked, and there it was again, that raw, unspoken something that terrified us both. "Just be honest with yourself," he said, "because tomorrow, whatever you say, I'll believe it." He walked to the door, opened it, paused, and without looking back, he said, "You should know. Elias wasn't the only one who saw your door open that night." My breath caught. Before I could ask anything, the door closed and I was alone. The storm outside finally began to fade, but inside me, it had only just begun. "If you want, I can now create fire thumbnail line, fire thumbnail image prompt, fire story title plus description plus hashtags, fire visual prompts for each section. Just tell me."